Ciao, Colin. Ciao, Bambini. How was your week?
Oddly eventful, but not in the way that one would care for it to be eventful. I had a bat in my kitchen, which I spoke to you
Oh,
about.
yes.
Yeah. So it's always hard when you get like an intruder, on your property. But
Mm-hmm.
he lives here now, so no, he doesn't. He once I, so that's like creature like heat wave. All the windows are open. Let go and let God. This thing just like slaps on my kitchen floor. I thought it was a leaf at first, and I just looked. I was like, "That ain't a leaf." And then I was like Googling, like, am I allowed to touch that? Can I like pet a wild bat, like that kind of thing? But
Yeah.
yeah, that was
Where
it.
are
It
you
was.
at with the Karunka story? Is it still like bat soup from a seafood place? Or
Listen, I
is
was about
it
yeah, I
like
was
is
I was due to start like COVID 20, whatever one, COVID 20. Yeah, it was like, so you like out here, like kind of semi countryside, you do get bats, like they are like just everywhere, like they are like you walk out and they are in the street. But I've never ever in my 30, excuse me,
25?
20 something years of existence, had one just fully just fly into my kitchen and be honestly, I will say kind of an all right guest. It was cool. It was fine.
You've had worse.
I've had certainly had worse. What about you? How was your week?
No bats in it, but like it reminds me that I have a quite kind of like wildlife centric life anyway. There are
It
the
was
the wilds are around me. Like we eagles kill our chickens, and you think, oh yeah, that's not normal. It did bring me back to living in Sydney, where there's flying foxes rather than bats, but technicality, whatever. There's tens of thousands of them live in the domain by the harbour, and we'll go and like at sunset we'll all like leave like it is the beginning of a Tim Burton, i.e. a good Batman film, where it'll just sort of they'll arc in their thousands across the sky like off to like eat fruit in people's yards and other annoying things, and fly into people's bedrooms and kitchens, maybe, I don't know. It did kind of bring me back to, oh yeah, lovely, because it was cold as and snowy. We got caught. I went up north with my neighbor and tarot card creator Avalon, so we spoke a lot about doing cards and all that kind of stuff. And we were going through the Central Lakes sort of district,
ooh.
and it's like Avalon also has a shit car. So I thought we'll go in hers. It's more comfortable than mine because mine are quite shit. Like I love my truck, but it's utilitarian. Anyway, turns out I thought she had a four-wheel drive. She only had an all-wheel drive. Didn't realize that even existed. So we were skiing a little bit on the road, and I'm sort of teaching her from the front seat how you drive in snow without chains. And I'm like, oh, well, this is exciting. It was actually quite exciting, and it just meant we showed up to our Airbnb a few hours late, but we got caught in a snowstorm. So yeah, bats and snowstorms. We put these two together. Batman Returns.
It's gorgeous. The best Batman movie of it,
Guaranteed,
obviously.
like by miles, guaranteed. All right. So this week category is the Stork, and
Yes.
before we get to it, we do what we usually do, I suppose, and that's look at some previous cards. Shall we, in this house, stand the house? Let's have a look.
This is just so I'm just gonna keep sending like the minute sort of like I did a bit of shading and things on it. Just until this deck is finished, like until like whatever like that, like November, December, like will just be one thing I do on it to get it finished.
It's so
And then
good,
by
though.
that point, it will be my favorite card.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like as it's just like because it's on the back burner of like a sort of a backlog of cards to kind of sort out. Just kind of taking my time with it and getting things done. I will change those little the Peruvian mountains in the background to kind of become more realistic in line with not realistic, but become more in line with like the sort of new rendering of the house.
Yeah, cool.
So that's those are the mountains from like the old house card. But they're just there just to not give me an anxiety attack because when you're like drawing something and it's just white space and like things are missing, you start to panic and you're like, much I imagine as with writing a book where there's just like segments missing that you've just been meaning to get to, and you're just like, that will not do.
And you just have to deal with your
But
unconscious.
yeah,
Like you just got to trust your unconscious isn't going to betray you again.
it's all about this is what I've discovered in my journey as like an artiste, as that really is just about tricking yourself into shit. Like it is truly just your own best trickster. Like that is how to go forward with it.
No, I'm super happy with it. It's like it's getting there, and it's funny. Like I know you are going to do the hills, but I look at them and go, they're not actually. I mean, they're not right, but they're not far off. Like I mean, it's
Yeah,
if you know, which very few people do, I guess, unless they live there. But like the Urubamba has, like as a
at the other
valley,
steep. Yeah,
they're mental. You can't walk up them, so they actually
it's not.
look
Yeah,
quite good. Yeah.
it won't be. It will just be. It'll be all that kind of shape, but it will
Yeah.
just be in a sort of more realized version.
Yeah. No, very cool. All right, let's do the bear, shall we? All right, so I notice here a chain link fence, rather than
Yes,
rather than someone's like backyard, which is cool.
the McPoyle's back garden.
Yeah.
Back garden. That was a great rec. It totally worked out. It was more like just tonally in keeping with like the industrial thing. I still need to add in some details about just sort of suggest that it's breaking in or out of some kind of industrial situation. I put like one of those gasometers in the back. Those big, we have them in Glasgow, where it's just those big fucking. Because that's like when I think of like abandoned or gross industrial, like that's kind of where I go.
Yeah.
But like there's more stuff that needs to happen just in the foreground. So suggestions welcome on that one. And the ghost, I kind of just forgot about, so she needs to kind of get rendered.
She needs to be a human, I think.
Well,
now that it's in the snow like that, she needs to be a human. And there probably needs to be more fire near the gasometer. Like that, it needs to be more obvious that.
Oh right, that's cool. Like so that would actually work just for a bit, because if it's like a like that, like just to give it kind of and a little sort of impact in the background. That would give it like a depth as well, which
I think so.
Totally cool. Move the little ghost lady just to behind the paw, like you suggested, which makes absolute sense, of course. But yeah, she's nearly done. That's nearly a wrap on the bear, thank God.
Yeah. In the bottom left, because I know that's where the sort of tractor wheel
tire
was.
and all that shit was.
Yeah. You actually could put like shrubbery, as if like, because if this is on the outside of an industrial area, like a factory or so on, you have that sort of god awful shrubbery that conceals fences as you're driving to an airport.
Like the site,
Totally. So just instead of a wheel or something there, if it just looks too, because a snowdrift, it's very difficult. Although I've just seen it, like possible to drift snow up against a chain link fence. If you're looking for like, it needs something. If you kind of got what appears to be silver birches. Or birches of some description, which is good for Siberia in like the background, even something that's sort of approximately that color. Shrubbery in the bottom left may, you're talking about depth and so on. Depends how it goes with like the fire and the destruction behind it. But the bear itself, I remember last week Jason was saying like it's like bear monster and not so much bear mother, but which is fine, because that's like, again, bears are bears. But I think once we turn the ghost into an actual woman, weird science style, then that's a movie from before my time. Then it will have a little a hint of that in there. But yeah, I'm pretty into it. I think it's cool. I think I like once we get to the insets. One of the things I'm noticing as we go through the project is putting them in dialogue with the card is getting more and more. You could sort of see that with the house, but putting them in dialogue with what's going on in the card is exciting and unique and very like it's very comic-y, right? And I think it's good. You don't see too much of that. They do seem to be afterthoughts, and this obviously central to how we understand the deck. So I'm really excited at seeing how those layers go.
Nice. Yeah, totally. It's one of those like one of those things I was like, oh, so it's August tomorrow. Let's start thinking about the insets because
Yeah.
that's it will obviously be a simpler design within a design. It's a game within a game. Who's that?
There you
What's that
go. Well,
referencing? There you
Rue
go.
hasn't started her
Um,
fucking game, and it's almost done. So, yeah,
it's nearly there.
yeah,
Well, fucking same. So,
yeah.
yeah. So it's definitely like thinking about it. And I think the last time we spoke about it, we were discussing like stained glass effects for it. But
There was a few.
I think next week.
Yeah, that looked really good. I think
Yeah.
we kind of know. I want to stay in that world, but I think I don't know if you, again, before my time, but children in the 80s and early 90s would sometimes get really shitty gifts if they're boys from their female friends, because how could they not know how into Batman people of that age were? Have you ever seen those kind of like homemade stained glass kits for kids?
Yeah, that does
That does ring not a
ring
bell
a
for
bell.
you, too young, but
Yeah,
like,
my dad
yeah,
maybe.
yeah. I like the idea of stained
Yeah.
glass, but that one was they're kind of a bit more organic. So sort of like a
Yeah, not as religious,
yeah,
not as structurally religious. Yeah.
and it gives
So I
that
think
story
next
of like
week,
windows into another reality, which is specifically
yes,
windows into our cinematic universe of Fortune's Fools. Yeah,
of Batman
yeah,
Returns. Yeah, I think so. Next week, then that is a commitment to have like a quick round of just like sketches, and we'll maybe start feeling that out, and everyone can have a comment in the Telegram or on the live chat, and just like feel it out and see what people vibe with. I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
We're
Because I
gonna
would
look.
now like to see personally for like just how it kind of. I kind of now want to see it interact with the illustrations so far. Because the more you do these things, the more it feels like, oh yeah, the deck is the deck. The deck is the deck. You know.
Yeah, no, very good. Which reminds like things we're going to do this week before we get to the stars and looking at what you actually got up to, other than befriending bats this week. We need to talk to the people who are in the chat and whoever else, again, Telegram chat, wherever, about merch, because we had launch merch, but now we've got where the Stork is card 17. So we're sort of like halfway through, and a lot of the images are pretty close to complete. So it's a question, and it's an open question. We can talk about it in the chat now. What do we want to see as merch? Image wise, like whether it's t-shirts or totes or so on. I would like a new hat, and I just don't know
Because you're a hat guy now, so
well, like I'm a vlogger, I'm a millennial vlogger. That means I have to wear hats.
need to
Like
get right in
literally
there.
when I was away with Avalon, I'm either in a beanie or oh no, I do one video without a hat, but otherwise it's beanies and hats. And it annoyed me. It annoyed me watching it, going like, why, if I want to start doing more videos, do I have to wear a hat? And then then I'm outside and the wind is blowing my hair everywhere, and I'm like, oh, that's
Oh,
why.
dude,
It's continuity.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's as someone with like a fringe of hair, just in Scottish weather, walking out, I don't often wear hats. I'll call it continuity, but also continuity, where I'm like, I need this to look as good as when I left the house, when I go to wherever I'm going to. So now I'm relating here on like a sort of a level I didn't expect to.
yeah.
So what does everyone kind of want to see?
So there's
What kind
like
of
everyone's
cards
talking
would be
about
like
product types like
represented?
beanies and hoodies, but like, what do you want on it, right?
Yeah, because often with merch, it's like the logo. A lot of like
Yeah.
shows about things. It's a simple kind of line. It's a color. It's a logo. But like, would we want to see a card represented on a tote bag, or a
And
hat would not be possible, but
no,
like
but
a
like it's a
shirt or
question
something,
of
that kind of
what
thing?
it's a question of what artwork has already been done that we want to see. Oh yeah, and
I
stickers.
think
Yeah,
the stickers. Oh yeah, we're doing
stickers is cool.
pens,
Yeah,
bitch.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
I kind of like I see just as a continuation of like the sort of opening art. Like the ship card is like a good like I
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
get that like to a level where I'm like, let's get this on a fucking t-shirt. and I can see that, and it looks really cool, and it's very cinematic, and it kind of that's the kind of it's the vibe of the deck, I think.
Yeah.
So like something like that, I would love to see kind of printed on just anything and everything. Put it on a fucking post-it note, like let's do it.
Yeah, that would work for t-shirt and hoodie for sure. I also wouldn't mind, and I'm not sure if it's the it could be the ship as well. But if you look at the sort of squid stuff around me, I wouldn't mind that on like a phone case.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind something like that, but we'll see. But the ship seems like a fairly good choice for story of the day. It's funny, now I have complete amnesia of everything except the scythe card, and I'm like, do I want a scythe card tote? And I'm like, I don't think so. I think that's too angry.
it's that's yeah. But yeah, well, sound off in the comments, join the Telegram group chat, like
the
getting
butt.
amongst
Actually,
it.
that's a really good point. We will make sure there is that. Thank you. The butt card.
The butt card. Oh yeah.
What that would actually make quite a good phone case. Or mug, because I'm really happy. I've just finished up my coffee, but I'm really happy with the sort of like camp mug, and not because I drink from it. Of the camp like logo mug. I think that was really good. So like a butt mug. Yes.
A butt mug. Yeah. Butt mug. Let's make it happen.
All right. What about the person on the horse? I forget the name. No, I don't think the rider is.
The rider has to. That's just okay. So I have to actually go back and redo elements of the rider just because I'm working on a bigger canvas now. But that's it's cute, but it's kind of, although it is obviously the first card. It's, I don't know. It's not kind of the ship to me feels more like it's the inaugural card in a odd way. I think because we were discussing it way before we started actually doing this, like that was our kind of that was our launch just to discuss like styles and all that kind of, and the approach and stuff. So to me it feels like home base almost. Not the shop.
So we've got ship, butt, and squid. The only like I thought like, do I want Toby on a mug? But then it would be this weird situation. Like, can you imagine being in the office? They'd be like, "Oh, is that your son?" Like, you've gone and got some like, you're just like novelty stuff about. Yeah, no, it's just this isn't my son.
That's
too weird.
Not mine.
All right, but some kind of like tentacle stuff for probably a phone case / iPad case, all that kind of thing. Because actually that's images, like the image, the squid sea that I am in is a different shaped image, obviously, because it's for the background. It was before the project started. So we probably could do something interesting with that. So, butt, ship, squid. That's pretty good for the next merch drop. I almost want to do one that's like 50 different iterations of the house, or like a nailed it.
let's do like that one will be for me when I finally fucking get it done. Like, here you go, here's your golden watch, get the fuck out of here.
A butt mouse pad, actually. Yeah, because what am I okay, let me just make sure I'm not going to mess everything up by moving my mouse. This is a real blast from the British past. My friend used to work for Snappy Snaps, if people are unaware. And so this was like a novel. This was like a sample of what you could do, speaking of pictures of children, in like 2008, when I was, whatever that is, 18. She gave this to me as a birthday gift when we were both in London. She's like, "Oh, happy birthday." And it was like,
here's a mouse mat.
But it's like literally a sample of what you could do with a picture of a child if you had a child. And here we are 12 years later, and it's still my mouse pad. So yeah, a mouse pad, a butt mouse pad. Yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah, would we want to do it? Would we want to alter them in any way for like a merch purpose, or
this
like the images?
Is a James
or
discussion.
Just at, like,
this is a James discussion because he knows the actual
James is the tech head.
File size and all the rest of it. I would say no, it'll be fine. Just print it, but I'm pretty sure that'll be wrong.
Got it.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So butt, tentacles, ship, mouse pad, hoodie, iPad / like phone case. Yeah, that's cool. What I'm thinking of is stuff that's sort of easy to, that doesn't require much in the way of reformatting over. So it's sort of what things are
Yeah,
card
yeah.
shaped could we use? So excellent. All right. That's off the to-do list. Let's get to the stars, and we have two, as we usually do. We'll talk about the journey through, and then the sort of final. Now, yes, talk to us about stars and archaeology and how your Lara Croft week was.
Yeah, like I ended up just like looking at a ton of like truly of the early 2000s videos of like just like discussing the site and all that, just to kind of get a handle visually on like what I'm looking at and where it's going and stuff, which was interesting, and a lot of it was like just a lot of the stuff on like YouTube, it was discussing like theories of what the site was used for and all that. So it was interesting to hear like your take on it, and then hear people kind of
You mean the correct
get it wrong. But it's like gorgeous. I got like the Orion, like the constellation and the lineup obviously was important. So Orion's belt is in there, and it was just kind of like we were talking about drone shots and stuff, and then there was the examples on the Pinterest board, the cunt board.
Yeah.
And it was just a case of kind of just like getting it in there. So I kind of ended up adding in the fire, even though that was like discussed as like a sort of separate possibility.
No, that's good. I would have had them dancing around it, but they're probably high.
Yeah,
at
well,
this point.
yeah. So this is it's not finished. There's like, this kind of relates back to your kind of that guided journey you did, where it was like the ancestor thing, where it was like the circles of kind of, right? So we've got like the circle by the fire, and then this was just like a development today where I was like, there's dancing shadows on like the sort of pillars.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if that was like a fun idea or not. So there is kind of dancing in there, but we can
no, it's I like it. Up. It's good, and I also like that the pillar on the left, the way the shadow works, it looks humanoid. It almost looks kind of Rapa Nui.
Yeah, because they are like, that's as I learned in my my viewings, was that they have like hands around them and stuff.
Oh
like
yeah,
it's really should read this fucking book of yours is what I should do. But, did read the other one, don't worry. But yeah, no, it's interesting place. But definitely vibe with like, again, you had like a pretty strong idea, so it really is just a case of ticking off the boxes and making sure it looks good. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
Well, look, I'm the Dark Prince of Chaos Magic. This is the guy who wrote Starships. There are cards that need to be me. One of them, as we've discussed before, is the ship. This is another one that needs to be me. And it is.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
This is the Stars card in like a Gordon White production. TV. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy with it.
It was a lot of fun to do. The shadow is fun. Like it kind of. So I'll work on that dancing thing and make it. It really is just like a. It was like a last minute spray. I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. So I can develop that, make it a lot more clear, because I am looking at this on my phone on the YouTube, so I can see it more represented as the size it would be kind of as a printed card. So I can like clear that up and kind of adjust the color for it.
Sure. The only thing I'd like to see, and I don't know if I'd like to see it just so we can remove it, is a little bit of smoke, because the smoke from fire connecting sky country to country is how ceremony works. So
nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's fine.
It doesn't need to be a big deal, just like a wisp, but something that's what you use fire for in these situations, to connect sky country to country. So I would that would balance wise, again, that would work quite well, because it would wisp against kind of like the Milky Way in the background there, like that's
that
what I was
cosmic thing, right?
Yeah, we're talking a wisp, not a smoke signal. You're not.
You're like, calm down, Colin. I know you get ahead of yourself on this. Just like I kind of totally.
There is that, like, I know we mentioned it before, but there's a scene at the beginning of The Invisibles where there's like a fire outdoor at night by the pyramids, And this has that energy, because I didn't want to use that as inspiration images for Conteboard last week, because like it's not quite right, but it is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's landed. It's got that same idea of our ancestors, our human ancestors by a fire with our more than human ancestors, which are the stars and the stones and so on. And that guidance aspect of the card and destiny and so on is all in there. And presumably someone sitting around the fire has had a skin breakout, but we can't see it from here because we are,
It's been a tough week for them too. Yeah. And I've learned something on top of all that is that I can now probably locate like Sirius the star because it's in there. Like I've like learned a lot. I've like upped my like astronomy games. I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. I don't need an app anymore to like point and click at the stars, which is a fun thing.
Well, maybe that's what summoned the bat. Maybe that's your own little bat summon.
Maybe, yeah. The sky is literally falling.
All right. Anything else? For people watching on the replay, it's just universal praise for us, as always, in the chat.
Yeah.
As in, I don't know, like, there's nothing, unless you guys, before we move off it, want to see something in particular. But it's pretty, this one's tight. There's not a lot to say about, like, no, do it again. I mean, it's not the house.
Well, yeah, that was self. As weeks go on, I'm like, that was a self-inflicted. Why I was like, why the fuck did I do that? But no, yeah, like it came together very easily, and it was like one or two sketches, and that was it. It was like it's a strong concept, and you talked us through kind of the whole process of the thinking behind it, which was cool. We all learned something. We all get a little closer to the sky. Beautiful.
Awesome. Well, as I said before, category is the Stork this week.
Yes.
And again, we're going to give it a little bit of Starship stank, because obviously people know the Stork is an arrival and a baby card and so on. Not like Toby, but like arrival or announcement kind of stuff, because that's what the Stork is in fairy tales. But what's interesting about how it got into fairy tales is that it is probably a belief, and this is in Starships, that's 100,000 years old. So we have it in European fairy tales that the Stork delivers babies. Now, if you go to different tribes and nations in sub-Saharan Africa, the same thing happens where birds and migratory birds bring a soul from like the Well of Souls. So that's how humans arrive here on Earth. So if you look at Dr. Witzel's work, and I did this in Starships, he talks about things, there being grandfather stories and grandmother stories. Now, grandfather stories are official stories, the stories that are told in courts and kings. So it's the Bible and all the like the state religion stuff that you organize society around, he calls grandfather stories. Grandmother stories are can often be leftover ones, because Tolkien would say that fairy stories are the furniture in the nursery, which is to say the table and the couch that were in the living room get replaced by new table and couch, and the old stuff just kind of gets given to the kids to wreck, essentially. But it doesn't have the official value anymore, but they're nevertheless still part of life. And grandmother stories are those where that they and grandmother stories are more long-lived because they're out of the political eye, and in particular the change of political eye over tens of millennia, where some stories are banned because it's like, well, those are the old gods and we've been invaded and now you have new gods and so on. Grandmother stories are politically pointless because men are cunts. So the Stork delivering a baby is one of those. And Dr. Witzel says, I think it's at least 100,000 years old, because if we find it in Africa as part of cosmologies, and we find it as a grandmother story in Europe, if you trace the migration of people around the world, you have motifs that look like that. So once again, the Stork, which is otherwise a boring card, like, ooh, a stork, like, who gives a fuck? It has that little bit of, hang on a minute, now we're talking about some sort of great godlike being that brings souls to Earth from like a well of souls, like the ocean underneath the Earth.
Yeah. But that big long beak.
It's cooler. Yeah. And it's really fun to know, I think, anyway. I think that's really fun to know when you are, if you've got kids, if you've got your own little Tobies and they're watching like Dumbo or Disney or whatever, where storks are bringing babies. It's really fun for you to know that that story has been told for like 100,000 years of grandmas. And that's cool stuff. So, that is my preamble. We'll talk about its meaning and so on, but that's my preamble to the always exciting section of the show, cunt board. Let's move.
Let's fire up.
All right, so far so good. Cool. So let me just get past Egypt. Little hint there. We, as usual, have two options. Two different iterations, like we sort of did last week. And the first, you can see this is Africa. No, that's Turkey. Let me just make sure we got it all. So we have two options. The first is like a ground-based one. So let me just pull this up. Load. So this is a whole bunch of stork. Oh, by the way, this is the white stork that migrates. And this is important, coming back to like the Well of Souls and the imagery around it. The stork is the arrival card and sort of like a promotion or obviously a baby announcement or something like that. It's generally a good card, but it's like a surprise arrival. It's not like the letter, which can be a bill or something, right? That's like the arrival of news. This is generally positive, unless it's like an unplanned pregnancy. And the white stork arrives in Europe in the spring, because it winters in Africa. So they start showing up in southern Africa about early December, give or take, and they fly over Northeast Africa and like the Levant. So they fly over Turkey and Israel and all that. And so we have two options. And one of them, the first one is on the ground and it's birds. This is Turkey, but picture this, as we were sort of saying this before, like you can hear Elton John singing in the background. And this is like a watering hole and there's this like African savanna behind it. Because if it's on the ground, and I like the idea of the reflections too. So like probably one in the foreground and some little ones like in the background, that has real Well of Souls energy because they're actually standing in the fucking water, right? So that's option A, and it's not my favorite option. It's just that the other one might have too much, and Jason will obviously bring it up because he likes to, and rightly so, keep us on target. But the other option is I would like to see them top down in flight, so sort of like flying underneath a drone shot or aerial photography. So this one here, but like from the other side, from above, flying. So you're looking down and below them, hang on, I almost fell for your tricks, cunt board. And below them is Giza. But see, from this angle, and I looked forever, and now so I've got pictures of Giza and pictures of the Nile. The Giza complex is on the fucking Nile, but they always take these pictures to show Cairo in the background, which can be there if you want. And this isn't Giza, this is actually further down the Nile. But like, I have it in my head that they're sort of, again, because it's Well of Souls and so on, if they're flying, because we didn't have the Giza complex in the last card, but we do have the stars. It's kind of like a fun little continuity. Basically birds migrating south from Europe to southern Africa, and at this moment they're flying over the Nile, effectively. And that, I'm not sure if it ends up looking too like, oh, that's the pyramid card, which doesn't exist. Oh, hence why I had this. This is a bit closer, but that's kind of like the light level that I was thinking. It's really difficult. This doesn't exist. But those are my thoughts. So we have a migration option where you're sort of seeing, obviously, in the foreground. So if it's a migration option, you kind of got like the bird flying like this. And, well, I'll do it this way. Egypt down here. And you can see maybe one or two smaller birds. Those are my thoughts. And if it doesn't work, anyway, what are your thoughts? Go for it.
So I usually balk at like the drone shot thing because it's just not that interesting to draw. But I really, really like this setup because the wings, the stork wings are like they're interesting shapes. And I think I can see what you're getting at. So I think that's probably the stronger option. And even though it doesn't exist, maybe that's potentially potentially better for the card to make it more of a we can like put a stamp on it. But I can see them like flying through, and then I can see like the sort of cinematic shot that you're going for.
Yeah.
So I
Like
really
they're
enjoy that.
bombing,
I think
like
that's
it's
the option.
like it's a Michael Bay movie or something, and they're slow motion bombing. Because actually,
Yeah.
the images, I can't remember if I sent you any, but they're a classic World War II aerial photography, World War II and immediately post-war aerial photography images of like old-timey planes flying over the Giza Plateau, and you can see the pyramids. And that's kind of what I had in my head when I'm like, it'd be fun if they were flying over it. They'd need to be a little bit higher than that. That's only a few thousand feet. But that's just so you can get everything in. I have no idea, presumably quite high. I have no idea how high storks actually fly. That's something for Google, I guess. But yeah, it is that kind of cinematic, almost like bombers flying over the target.
And I can see like the like different levels of Stork, like sort of so you've got like one wing just off you, like kind of like the pigeon card where it's like just you've got a wing here and there and then like the main Stork. So it's like it has like again a depth of field even though it's looking down. That would be quite interesting to draw. And the nail is just like a gorgeous thing. Again, just a gorgeous shape to kind of. It's like two gorgeous shapes to draw, which is always a good thing. And then the
Nile's the mother of Egypt. Like it actually works with the. Otherwise, we do something different. It actually works with the card and its quote unquote meaning, as long as you widen the meaning out and actually say like, well, hang on. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm pretty happy with that as a first pass. But we have a backup. We have like a intro to the first few minutes of the Lion King as option B.
I have high hopes for that for the aerial view because I can see it in my head, in my mind, which is usually a good sign that it's like transferring kind of automatically. Totally, yeah.
Cool. And there are secondary meanings, which I should have probably that have fed into it as well. So obviously, because the cards predate air travel, there's a ship card, and if you've got Ryan's, like maybe Lenormand, you've got a train card and whatever. There isn't an air travel card, but the Stork is that. If you're looking for how people get somewhere. So that's something that's sort of accrued to it over time, and it's also long legs. So it's like the RuPaul card. Medically speaking, so if it's either a person with long legs or it's leg day or whatever. But like in the same way,
should ice get leg day? Card says no.
So it flies, it's air travel, it's arrival, all that kind of stuff. So I think I'm very interested to see Storks in flight. And I think one of the other reasons, we spoke about this early on in the project, so many of the original or like late 1800 Lenormand images are shit. And it's that kind of classic, like no one until the invention of the camera had seen like a horse's legs in motion and so on. It's very difficult to get close up to a bird in flight up until
from above, but that's what the old mind's eye is for. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. But now we can, right? So we've been able to do that for about 100 years, but the people in the late 1800s doing whatever the version of Fortune's was then,
they just see it they see the bird on the ground or in the on the savannah or whatever, like they see it in its kind of rest mode or in its like feeding mode or whatever, drinking
and their
mode.
butt would have been done.
And and at risk of crocodile attack, which is something I'm sure you're very familiar with.
That's quite recently.
Totally. And I like the color, the last second last image with the sort of the light level and like the color scheme, like that totally tracks as well. Like it's that kind of dusk. It's like early morning, like kind of here we are.
Yeah.
Fresh light, fresh. Yeah. Got it. What's the inset on this one?
Queen of Hearts.
Hey, there we go.
That's obviously there's it's
call me mother.
So it's the Rue card. It's legs and Queen of Hearts. Although she isn't. So what shall I watch tonight? The Stork. Again, it's the only thing on.
Guess it's the drag race.
It's so the Queen of Hearts. It's funny, given that women were mostly the ones who did fortune telling. It's interesting how like sexist fortune telling is. So it's one of like the two. So there's the snake card, which is the treacherous woman stealing your husband. Then there's the Queen of Hearts, which is the good mother. And those are the two genders of women. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of
I guess outside of like the Rider Waite, like most of the illustrators from those would have been dudes, right?
pretty
Like
much
because that
pretty
was
much.
the
It's
domain.
more like that's the traditional association. Like there's your Queen of Spades, she's the treacherous one. There's your Queen of Hearts, there's the good one. Because obviously it's like unconditional love and all that kind of stuff. So it is a mother card, but it's also the very reliable ride or die female friend. So it's like the good egg, the friend you can rely on for anything, and her arrival. So if you're looking for that person, particularly if you're reading for someone and it's a female querent, and there's like work stuff going on, and you're looking for in a tableau situation, if you're looking for that friend and what's going on with her or what her relationship to the question being examined is, very often, unless they're kind of sexy friends and you can use the rider, look for the Stork, in particular look for the Queen of Hearts, but that's an example of when you can speak both languages. When you're like, you speak Lenormand and playing card, you can drop down, find the Queen of Hearts and see what's going on there. So it makes sense. It's one of those ones where you go, Queen of Hearts, baby, but like pregnant, that kind of loving for in utero baby rather than the Toby card, which is a baby.
Yeah, a kid, full blown, ready to go on a mouse pad.
All right, songs. Unless there's anything else you want about the inset.
No, that's pretty cool. So I think for next week we'll have the card, and this will be the trial run for inset situations and see. We'll have like a selection and we'll kind of workshop that because we have the idea.
Yeah.
We just have to have the sort of execution. So yeah, we'll say next week as well be the arrival card because it will be the Stork and it will be this fucking inset.
Might as well start with a complicated one, hey? Because if you can get it right for Queen of Hearts, then the 3 of Diamonds is going to be easy.
Cool. Yeah. And there's oddly the insets there's a lot of elements to consider and a lot of discuss. Maybe that's a behind the scene thing or a Telegram chat thing, but there's a lot of it's a multi-dimensional. I will say this, and I didn't expect it coming into the whole project. It's a multi-dimensional kind of setup. There's a lot going on. And much like Untucked, we're only getting half the story just on YouTube. So Telegram chat and just DM me on fucking Instagram or something. I don't know. But yeah, totally. So songs are. We had this chat earlier. So the setup is I always ask Gordon what his take on the card is, because just to brace myself for the evening. And it always kind of sets the tone of what I kind of go for. I think sometimes I have a song sort of lined up. But that's what I was like, oh yeah, totally. This is the vibe. So we were talking about Lion King and all that kind of stuff. And I truly, honestly went with a Lion King song, but it's not the Lion King of our parents. It's the Lion King that we grew up with, the CGI one. Haven't actually seen it. Don't care to see it. But Beyonce did a song for it because she's in the movie, I guess. Called Bigger, and it's this kind of, it is like a nourishing. She has kind of the Queen of Hearts in it, where she's like this nourishing kind of figure. She's basically bigging up her newborn child. Like, this is, here are the Bill of Rights of existence, and sort of don't let people feel like it's a very kind of it's like a Queen of Hearts vibe, but also it's kind of it plays into the kind of the savannah and I like it. And no one knows about it because I think 4 people saw that movie.
Yeah. No, I watched it
the other week. I don't
even remember it. I watched it the other week, and it is.
I don't think it was in the movie. I think it was in the soundtrack. Okay. It was like, they spared you that. But it's a gorgeous song. I heard it just independently, and I was like, oh, that is really fucking And it was like sort of the beginning of the pandemic, and I was like, that is the song I need right now. So one of the so that's Bigger by Beyonce. What's your song?
So I went with To Zion by Lauryn Hill. And I think I nailed that. I think that's absolutely the right energy for it. The song she wrote for her son, Zion, but also because of the name, it is that sort of like arrival prophecy kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
like thinking about songs to a child or songs about a baby. And then I kind of dropped into the like lullaby world. And there's a couple of options in there that were almost, there's just that To Zion is a really good choice. There's a couple of options in there. And one of them is You Are My Sunshine, because that is a lullaby, but it's actually like a Civil War era song and quite heartbreaky. But I noticed like my little brother had a son, like a plush son that you would play You Are My Sunshine, and it's a fairly common and sort of elegiac lullaby, and it almost has that Well of Souls melancholy to it. But To Zion is my choice. But if I was picking a lullaby, and there's plenty, like lullabies are so Lenormand anyway. Like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, can't have that one because of the star. And You Are My Sunshine is like, well, there is a sun card, but it's not actually about, like, it's not a match at all for the sun card. So I'm like, okay, I can see if that one can slip in. But the short answer is To Zion by Lauryn Hill.
Featuring a sort of mainstay of our parents' music of the 90s, Carlos Santana, who just was like, he was just like doing the strings on every song that I think was a hit between 95 and like 1999, we'll say.
Yeah. So what you're saying is it was playing while I was being born.
Yeah, like that was the operating theater. It was like, do you want the radio on?
Yeah. Carlos Santana delivered me in 1999. And that's why there's a Stork card.
I mean, we barely know Dua Lipa as it is, so we've just got to make do.
Yeah. So that's my song. That's To Zion, and
it's a really good song as well. Like I don't think I've heard it, and it's like Lauryn Hill's one of those ones that's when you remember Lauryn Hill exists, you then have to go and like spend an hour listening to Lauryn Hill.
Yeah.
Good shit.
No, absolutely. Well, so yeah, you're doing Stork and Insets, and maybe a little noodling with a bear. Phrasing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Nice one. And everyone else, thanks again for the chat, and thanks for the input in terms of the merch. And we will hope to have some stuff available by the next show. If not, it'll be in the next couple of weeks. And there'll be merch available. But all right, have a good week.
See you in